It's been really funny to watch the confrontation between baseball's umpires and baseball's pitchers as baseball now decides that they are going to enforce a rule that they probably should have been enforcing for a really, really long time, Danny.
I love it, man. Did you see Romo? Sergio Romo had the most flair or panache. Reliever for the Oakland A's. He'd just given up a home run, so it's probably the wrong time to ask him, like, hey, man, can I see your glove and your belt buckle? Because he threw his hat and glove down, and then he whipped off his belt. Like, I mean, unbuckled it, took the whole thing off, threw that down, and then undid his pants and dropped him to his knees. Like, it was solid.
Here is the play-by-play of this moment in time.
And you take a look here at what Sergio Romo was dealing with, and he was a little bit heated there after the performances. He's immediately thrown off the belt, the glove, the hat.
What Sergio Romo was dealing with, what was the umpire dealing with? Imagine this guy's coming up to you. I don't think these umpires want to do what they are doing at this point in time, unless you're Angel Hernandez. We'll get to him in a moment. But the poor umpire. I mean, Sergio Romo's just going up to him and saying, hey, my pants are down. That doesn't even necessarily help the umpire figure out whether or not Sergio Romo is carrying any stuff that might be doctoring the baseball.
It's more entertaining than your average between innings.
That's true, though.
I didn't anticipate we were going to have these kind of theatrics. I love it. I absolutely love it. The best was Scherzer, because then you had an opposing manager involved, and Scherzer's mad, and plus we've learned that Scherzer is one of the chief suspects in sticky stuff.
That's clearly something we learned, because umpires inspected Max Scherzer 3 times last night, and I don't know if that was because of hints before the game from Joe Girardi, but at the very least it seemed like Max Scherzer felt that way, and it led to a Joe Girardi ejection.
Max Scherzer, as the inning ended, gazing over toward the Phillies dugout. Didn't say anything, just looked, and then Joe Girardi came up and said, come on over. Firing everybody up, and he was ejected from the ball game.
So Girardi was touching his hat. Scherzer must have caught wind of that.
Well, so the first 2 times Scherzer got checked, it was the umps. And then there's a sequence where Scherzer kind of rubs his hand, like rubs his neck and does something else. And then Girardi asks him to go check him again. And that's when Scherzer then gets mad. He throws his glove down. He takes off his belt. It looked like he was going to take off his pants, although they're like, whoa, 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 it's not that kind of joint. Hey, man, keep your pants on. And then when the inning ends, Scherzer's yelled at his own manager on the mound before. Like, I don't want to say the guy's capable of committing homicide, but if you were going to pick the person most likely to do it, he looks that way. And then he's mad at Girardi, and Girardi's like, I'm not going to take being stared at by you, so he's motioning like, come on over here. Which, in what other sport do you have the manager, like the supervisor, like he's a boss, like saying like, hey, you want to fight? Like usually that's what you leave to the workers to do, but yeah, it was great. And then Scherzer, to his credit, was not like, oh, yeah, I want to fight you. You can't fight the other team's boss. Like, dude, you're old. You don't even play anymore. So he just keeps holding his glove and hands up in the air to say, like, I got nothing. It was awesome.
You also had, and I think this was a great observation made by John Boy, who you guys might know as somebody who will basically go through some of the back and forths between pitchers and umpires or managers and umpires to try and walk through what's actually being said. But this observation, because of Max Scherzer and a physical trait of his, was, I think, a very good one.
Go ahead. I want to touch my hair. Okay. Touch. That's so creepy. These umps have to just rub up sweaty, thinning hair. This is disgusting. That's part of that ump's job now. It's like...
And I mean, imagine some
who doesn't like this? I mean, the pitchers don't like it, but who else is not entertained by this? It's hilarious. Here's the other thing. Scherzer, they probably have a point with Scherzer, because now we can study the spin rate. Like we know. Paul, did you know that the spin rate on Scherzer's slider yesterday was the lowest it had been in any outing in 5 years? In 5 years. Like, seriously, something changed. There's not as much revolution on the ball, and he's really mad. What do you think? I think I could do that addition.
We also saw similar things with Garrett Cole, I believe, as far as his spin rate versus the lowest, I think, since 2017, which is pretty interesting. You know, when John Boy said that, though, Danny, especially when you watch the Mariners and their victory over the Colorado Rockies last night, There's that dude on the Rockies, Charlie Blackmon, who has just
The guy who looks like I fished him out of my shower drain.
yes.
Yeah. I fish those like when there's like slow draining thing and I get the little plastic snake in there and out comes Charlie Blackmon.
Oh man, it's usually not a man's fault when that happens, by the way, but that's just me. That's I blame that from time spent sharing a bathroom with my sister a long time ago. Who had the hair clogging the drain? But yeah, umpires now are going to have to run their hair. They're going to have to run their hands through the hair of a guy like Charlie Blackmon to look for gunk on certain pitchers. Garrett Cole's got a full head of hair. I'm all for this, too. This is just getting awkward and more awkward by the moment.
Can you mess with pitchers now? Can you use this to mesh with pitchers? And I asked that because there was another thing that happened yesterday. Nick Castellanos, I think the Reds were playing the Twins, and the Twins pitcher, Robles, was using a weird delayed leg kick where he'd kind of hold his leg. You saw it a little bit last night from who was the Freeland, who was the Rocky starter. He was doing it a little bit where there's kind of this hesitation.
Right.
And Castellanos doubled, and then he got to second, and he started mocking it. Like, he raised his leg like Robles was doing, and Robles didn't like it, came out there to talk to him about it, like he didn't like being showed up. And then there was a walk, and then after that, I think a 3-run homer, and Robles was out of the game. Like, maybe this is another tool to mess with the fragile psyche of these little delicate pitchers.
Well, we know pitchers, they're not that dissimilar to kickers, right, in football. I mean,
a finicky bunch.
Yeah, they are very, very different. They pitch sometimes just once every 5 days. Are you curious as to if this will have an effect on the Mariners? I was listening to the Mariners pregame show right here on 710 before heading into the stadium last night, and Scott Service mentioned that they would have to make adjustments. Here's Scott.
I think around the league, guys have already started to make adjustments, but our guys are aware of the rule. They understand they will get checked starting tonight. Our starting pitcher probably gets checked after the first inning, and the relievers will get checked as well. So it's just something that we have to make an adjustment. Our guys know the rule, they understand it, and they understand if they don't follow it, they're going to get suspended for 10 days. So it's a real thing.
I know Ryan Divish had a write-up on this in the Seattle Times that they're not using that spider tack mix, but they've ordered new gloves, some pitchers on the Mariners, because they have pine tar stains, and there's been pine tar sunscreen and resin mixes that have been used. Look, they've pitched really well thus far. I don't want to sound like a skeptic or someone that believes that something is taking place, but I do wonder if there will be a long-term effect, given that that's been the best part of this team this year.
Yeah, it's fair to wonder. Now, what Divish had said is it's mostly the sunscreen and rosin combination.
It's
and
rosin, not resin.
The spider tack. But yeah, I think it's all pitchers are going to have to adjust here. That's very clear, and I think we are going to see averages. Anything that helps people hit, I'm all for, because I need the Mariners to hit better. I'm all for any adjustments. But you're right, there could be a trickle down effect.
We'll see, but I hope we see more of these confrontations. They have been hysterical, and it's just 2 days in, and we didn't even mention Angel Hernandez went to the mound to inspect a guy who came into the game with a 16 ERA, down 7-0 in a monsoon. It's pouring rain. What are you going to feel out there?